So my name is Netta Jenkins. I focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism. I have been doing this work from goodness. As long as I can remember, it all starts off with a story. Both of my parents came to the States from Liberia in the 80s and moved to a very small town, predominantly white town. And we experienced a tremendous amount of racism. My first direct example of that was at the age of 7 when I watched a white woman spit in my mother's face and say, "Blacks don't belong in my neighborhood." And I watched my mom stay silent, and I stayed silent. And we turned back around, we walked into the house. We didn't really unpack anything, but I remember at a very young age vowing to myself that I will never be silent again, never be silent again. And coming from an African household, you kind of have 3 occupations that you can choose from. So you can either be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. And
very classic.
Very classic pathway, right? So my father was buying me law books at a very young age, and he wanted me to be an attorney. My mother wanted me to be a cardiovascular surgeon. So she was buying me a whole bunch of biology books. And I wanted to be an activist, right? I wanted to fight and advocate for people. And so it was very interesting because I thought I was going to be on the attorney path for a very long time. I didn't end up going in that direction, but...
Do you know that telling a story is one of the most powerful ways to connect with your audience? Do you know that the human brain processes story much more easily and quickly than facts and figure? Stories are a great way to engage your audience, get them interested in your products and services, and inspire them to take action. A good story will help you create more compelling content that can be shared on social media or through other channels. And it's not just about telling a compelling story, it's also about knowing how to tell it effectively. Now, do you want to better connect with your audience? Then join us on our online training class, Storytelling for Content Creators and Digital Entrepreneurs. Come to obehi-1food.com/storytelling and learn how to leverage your storytelling skill to earn more as a content creator and digital entrepreneur. Storytelling is a powerful way to connect with your audience, so let's explore it together. See you in the class.
I have always advocated, spoke about injustices, spoke about the impacts of racism and what we need to do to begin to dismantle that. And I started that in middle school and high school and college, and even as an adult within the workplace, I saw all of the systemic gaps that exist. And I knew that, hey, this was something that I was going to sink my teeth into.
Thank you so much for that. That is very, very important. In fact, all the questions I wanted to ask you regarding your background, you already answered all of them. So I'm not going to ask you anything. They were just going to move straight on. That is very important. You see, some people, they see people do things, they don't understand why they do it. Yeah. So in this podcast, we try to take a step back so that we understand what is the motivation behind what you do. So with your explanation, that is very clear now. So you see, I contacted you after the shooting in Buffalo. So I wanted us to talk about the situation. Of course, after that, I interviewed a professor in the story. It's not ending because it hasn't ended. Of course, then we stated that another one was going to happen. In fact, it did happen. Another one again and again and again and again. So it's something that we shouldn't really keep quiet about because it affects us. Of course, it might not necessarily affect you that is watching us now, but it might affect somebody next to you. So for that reason, it's something that you really cannot simply say, well, as long as it doesn't affect me. Because if that is the way you are reasoning, the way that is going to affect you, it will directly affect you. Nobody is going to be there to also stand by you. That is why it is important that even though it hasn't touched you, it hasn't touched your skin yet, what we are talking about here is important because it touches human being. And all of us, we are the other human being. Because the one in front of you is one, but you are the one that is seeing it. Anyway, so let's put it like this. What is the situation of race and racism in the United States today? Because now you are a full mature adult and you are doing this consciously.
Yeah, racism is something that many people within America are afraid to touch. And it's really, really unfortunate because there are so many people that stay silent to the inhumane acts that people from systemically overlooked populations face and have faced for many years. And I think, oftentimes when I talk about racism, what I see happening is there's a population of people that feel a high level of resentment because they see the inequities that still exist. They see the inaction. They see the things that are stated. They see the level of energy that's put forth on one topic as opposed to another topic, right? And to be very direct, as we start to talk about even the instance with those Black people that were murdered in the grocery store. There were many leaders within organizations that said nothing. Not even, how are my employees feeling? How is the Black population within my organization feeling right now? How can we support you, right? And then we see other things that come up, right? So like we see what's happening with Roe versus Wade. And the people that affects the most are going to be those that are women identifying of color, right? Those a part of the trans community as well. So we see the ripple effects, but I think the hardest part and where the resentment comes from is the inaction, the lack of action that many American people are taking. And when you are not taking action, that just shows that it's not important to you, right? And I wrote a post about this. Oftentimes when people are silent, there's a voice in silence. If I'm talking to you and I'm telling you, hey, here's what happened to me. Here's what's happening to the people within my community, and you say nothing, then that tells me you don't care, right? So there's a voice that comes, there's a cost that also comes with that level of silence. And then I think the other side that we're seeing is guilt. So we're seeing resentment with everything that has transpired and that continues to transpire. And then we're seeing a level of guilt from a population of people that are saying, but I didn't do this. Yeah, maybe like those that came before me did this. So like, what do I have to do with this? But the role that those people play, again, is the level of inaction that's taken. Even if you're not overtly contributing to racism, and I think there's the misconception that if, you're only racist if you use the N-word. You're only racist if perhaps similar to the situation that I had shared, it was pretty overt and direct with a white woman spitting in my mother's face and saying Blacks don't belong in my neighborhood. That person is racist. But if I'm silent, I'm not racist. That's a form of that. It's a form of inaction.
Thank you for that. You see, like I said before, it affects everyone. It's not. I think it was during the march of Martin Luther King that I think he was the one actually that said that if you are silent, then you are on the part of the oppressor. Yeah. You cannot be silent. You just cannot be. Mm-hmm. Because you cannot say you don't have the time to react. No, of course you do have the time to react. Make your voice heard. Which line are you? Which part are you?